You are tuned in to the DNVR Rockies podcast brought to you by Bet365 from the Toyota Lounge. We are hanging out here in studio. We got the bar behind us. Good vibes all day. But when you sign up on Bet365, use code DNVR365. Choose your offer and find out why it is never ordinary at Bet365. And man, we got a great day today, Yahir. It is the combination, and I said this on Twitter because it is one of my favorite days of the year. It's the start of one of the best seasons of the year in the sense that we've got the combination of football and baseball season. The start of football season beginning today officially with the NFL here on Thursday, and some meaningful baseball in September here at the end of baseball season. I mean, this is about as good of a time for sports. If you're a baseball fan, this is about as good as it gets, man.
It really is. There's that kind of moment between September, October, where all the sports kind of just get together. It's my favorite time of the year.
And we get that towards the end of the year as well when we, like the end of football season, when you kind of have hockey, basketball, football, and baseball kind of like getting ready to start all at that same time. So that's on the flip side of that. It's almost like daylight savings time. I mean, like you get two of them each year, and, this is just our first one for us, and we get to have a little bit of football and baseball action. Unfortunately for the Rockies, it sucks that we don't have really meaningful baseball from a wins and losses standpoint. But what I do think we have is meaningful baseball from a prospect standpoint and from a how are we developing as a team this year? And I want to get into that because there's been a guy that's been standing out to me on the Rockies that has made his MLB debut just about a week ago and has kind of jumped onto the scene. He's only had a couple MLB appearances, but I think already he is someone who could solidify himself in this rotation of pitchers for the Rockies moving forward, and that's Seth Halvorsen. And Seth Halvorsen, he kind of came onto the scene. We knew about him in the minor league system, in the farm system for the Rockies. He's another George kid. He's just been a guy that, I think has kind of grown through the minor leagues. And we didn't really know what to expect from him when he got to the big leagues. He got up there, and we realized pretty quickly that this guy has the stuff to be a closer. Came in with 101-mile-an-hour fastballs, averaging out about 99 to 101 on his fastballs. But then in his second appearance, he started mixing in some off-speed pitches, and he started out his second appearance in the bigs with 6 consecutive changeups through 2 batters. And before he even showed off his fastball, I think he mixed in like a slider in there as well. But what I like about Halvorsen is he gives off the vibes of a traditional closer. And this isn't to take away anything from Victor Vodnik, who has been kind of placed in that closer role this season. But Halvorsen, I think to me, feels more traditionally like a closer. And what I mean by that is, again, not to take away from Vodnik, because Vodnik throws hard too. But in the few starts that I've seen from Halvorsen, mentally, he seems like he's got the mental side of things a little bit more progressed than Victor Vodnik. He's kind of has that like intensity of a closer that I haven't quite gotten from Victor Vodnik just yet. Vodnik seems like he's got the stuff to be a closer, but we've seen some inconsistencies from him. We've seen Bud Black be critical of Victor Vodnik, being able to locate his fastball a little bit better. He's lofted some pitches up in the zone. He's not been as accurate. He hasn't gone on attack mode with hitters as quickly. And I think what we've seen from Halvorsen in the few outings that we've seen him is he goes up there and he is completely hound dog focused on pitching and pitching, in location, in his command, in speed, accuracy, and he has a game plan. And again, it's a small sample size, but Vodnik's also a small sample size as well. And I just feel like from the impressiveness that we've seen in his few outings with the Rockies, I personally feel like he is going to be someone that possibly fits into this closer role, in a deeper context moving forward. Now, what does that mean for Victor Vodnik? Well, it means that hopefully Victor Vodnik uses this as an opportunity coming off the IL, I believe on Friday, tomorrow, given what Bud Black told the media a couple days ago, that Victor Vodnik kind of takes this as a competition. And it's nice to have a guy who's kind of pushing you a little bit further. Vodnik is young, as is Seth Halvorsen, and he's going to be a guy that I think is going to be a solid piece to that rotation for the Rockies moving forward. It's a matter of, are you going to be better suited as a closer? Are you going to be better suited in the relief spot? And I think right now, from what I'm seeing out of Halvorsen, Vodnik might end up getting shifted into a late inning relief spot. And to me, that's okay. What I want to see out of Vodnik is, if he's going to stay in this closer role, he has to bump up that consistency. I think, especially right before he went on the IL, he started getting into some inconsistent waters. His walks were going up. He was getting out of some of the ninth innings that he was put in, but you'd end up getting out of it by, walking the first batter of the inning and then getting a double play. Or you'd get a guy on second base and you'd strike out a guy, get a, sack fly, and then you'd strike out the last batter. Like, you were making him work for it a little bit harder. Halvorsen's pretty much been 3 up, 3 down in almost every single one of his outings. So that's where I want to see Vodnik improving. Now, Vodnik did get confirmed by Bud Black. He is going down to Hartford to Double-A today to be getting some innings or some pitches at Hartford today. And we're going to get that relief, see how he's going, see if he can get his pitch count up a little bit. And then he's going to go into, from what Bud Black said, pitching tomorrow in the game if they need him in that closer role. And so we're going to see Victor Vodnik be a part of this rotation for the Rockies. But I do feel like Seth Halvorsen's going to make him work for it a little bit. And I love that, man. Some friendly competition. Here it feels like, I mean, you do a lot of the Broncos stuff. You're around the Broncos guys. Like, it feels like how a lot of what we see in, like, Broncos training camp. Like, there's only a set amount of roster spots that the Broncos or any NFL team has. And so you get this kind of one-on-one competition between guys to kind of fight for who's going to be that next person. And, I mean, from your perspective with the Broncos, like, I think that competition ends up bringing out the best in players, moving forward.
Yeah, man. When the Broncos won the Super Bowl in 2015, there was a saying that's still up there, big as hell. It's called iron sharpens iron. And that's exactly what it is, right? The only way you can get better is if somebody pushes you to be better. And if Victor doesn't end up in that closer spot, at least you have another guy that got pushed. And now you got a better closer, and now you might have a rotation piece in that lineup that can just make the team better. That's all you want, competition. So it creates greatness out of all these guys that want it.
And it's options, and I talk so much with the Rockies about, like, we need options right now. The Rockies, I've defended Bud Black over and over, talking about how, I don't put the blame on the lack of success that the Rockies have had on Bud Black because he doesn't have options. Like, who are you going to throw late in the game when, you're up by 1 and you need a guy to come in and get 4 or guys to come in and get 4 innings of shutout baseball? Who are you going to turn to? And so for the Rockies to have options with the closer role with Victor Vodnik and Seth Halvorsen, that to me sets them up and checks a box for them moving forward, where you can say, we're going to go with the guy that's giving us the most consistency. And it doesn't mean that other guy isn't going to fit into that rotation. It just means that guy, Seth Halvorsen or Victor Vodnik, whoever rises above, is going to be the person you lean on to get those outs in the ninth inning when it matters most. I got to have consistency. The Rockies, you never know what you're going to get from their bullpen, from their pitchers. And so for me, if we can find that consistent lineup where you have someone that you trust, that's not going to scare you every time they step out there, and not to say Victor Vodnik's that guy, but if we can have that in Seth Halvorsen or Victor Vodnik, I'm okay either way. But Seth Halvorsen's been showing out here for the Rockies, and you love to see it. Hey, Bradley Blaylock, we'll talk about that because to kind of recap the game for you guys yesterday, it was the second game of the series against the Braves. The Rockies lost 5-2. 4 out of those 5 runs came in the first inning. Probably the worst outing we've seen out of Bradley Blaylock. And unfortunately for him, it came in front of his entire hometown. He is from Georgia, went to high school there. If he hadn't gotten drafted out of high school, he would have been playing college ball in Georgia. And they showed on the broadcast, videos of his whole family and friends all at the game. You hate to see a first inning where you give up 4 runs, and he had 2 outs, no less, when he gave up those 4 runs. But look, man, Victor Vodnik buckled up after that first inning blowout, and I think that to me was more impressive than I was worried about that first inning. I put more weight on the back end of that game for Victor Vodnik than I put the weight on the negative of that first inning. You're going to have bad innings. Unfortunate that it happened in the way that it did with 2 outs, giving up 4 runs. That Braves lineup, especially the heart of that lineup, is a beast. And Blaylock learned that the hard way. But we've seen Blaylock face some of the best hitters in baseball, including the New York Yankees, heart of their lineup, and get out of it and pitch really well. And so for him to give up four runs in a game that to me doesn't matter that much, it showed that he can get pushed against a wall. He can face some adversity and then come back and pitch well the remainder of his time out on the bump. And he ended up going 5 innings pitched. He gave up 4 hits and 4 runs. That's a good line to me. I mean, the 4 runs, outstanding. 5 innings pitched with 4 hits is good. He had some strikeouts mixed in there. Like, Bradley Blaylock did not pitch poorly overall. And I know he's frustrated about that first inning. I know Rockies fans, obviously, and you would have probably won that game if you had pushed that first inning aside. But to me, the value of his outing is much heavier on the back end of that, the latter half of his outing, because he kind of refocused himself. You talk about resetting your mindset. He was able to do that, and he was able to get out of it. So I think that was actually a good game for Bradley Blaylock. I wasn't as worried as some people were on social media saying like, oh my God, Bradley Blaylock gave up four runs in 1 inning. Yeah, he did, but he gave up nothing after that. And he pitched really well, and he pitched for 4 more innings. So Bradley Blaylock, I'm still bullish on Bradley Blaylock. I still think he's going to be another piece to that puzzle for the Rockies and their rotation. Sam Hilliard continues to dominate against the Braves. He was 6 for 8 in their home series against the Braves. Got on base a couple times last night. Just one of those weird things, like you say, Jake Cave has the Yankees number. When he played the Yankees, he went 5 for 5 in that series. Sam Hilliard, for some reason, is just balling out against the Braves. And then Drew Romo needs to get his bat around a little bit more. He had a great series against the Marlins, which it's the Marlins, but he needs to get his bat going a little bit more. But defensively, Drew Romo has been playing lights out. And I want to push you guys to the DNVR Rockies Twitter, because I posted a video. I talked to Romo, a week ago, right in their last game. It was last couple games before they went on the road. And I talked to him about his fundamentals behind the plate, because Romo is known as a defensive catcher. And he had talked about his technique, because he's one of the catchers that catches from a knee. And I had asked him, how does that affect your ability to throw down? Well, yesterday when Halvorsen was in the game and Eli White was at first, Eli White attempted to steal second, and Romo read it perfectly. And on a dime, stands up, cueing to Blaylock to pitch it outside a little bit so he could get that fastball away and give Romo a good throw down to second. And I mean, Halvorsen basically threw a 100-mile-an-hour dart straight into Romo's glove, and Romo got a 1.78 pop time down to second base. It was one of the quickest turns. I mean, it looked like Yadier Molina out there, and he dimed up Eli White at second base, and it was a perfect example of what Drew Romo explained to me in the clubhouse when I talked to him about that. So it's a catching masterpiece by Drew Romo, and I want you guys to head over to the DNVR_Rockies on Twitter. You can see it on your screen right there too, to see that video, because I think it describes perfectly the type of catcher that Romo is. And I got some comments on that on Twitter saying like Drew Romo could be a Gold Glove catcher. I totally agree. And you know what he reminds me of? And I'm going to do a video on this in the future. Drew Romo reminds me of Buster Posey. And if you watch his fundamentals behind the plate, he has the same stance behind the plate as Buster Posey, same thing as Yadier Molina. His techniques, his routine behind the plate is the same. He even kind of has that soft toss. Buster Posey never fired it back to his pitchers. Buster Posey kind of lofted it back to his pitchers. And I did get some comments saying, hey, why is Drew Romo lofting it back to his pitchers, in the way that he does? We've talked about that before. I think it had to do with probably overthrowing his pitcher a couple times and them having to make some adjustments on that. We'll probably do a story on that in the future. But I think Drew Romo is going to be a really fun, exciting catcher to watch for the Rockies. And we've seen that his bat is capable. We just need to get that consistency back up there. He had a couple strikeouts yesterday that was unfortunate. Struck out with runners in scoring position at one point. That's stuff that you got to get cleaned up. But he's young, and I think he's got a good future with this Rockies organization. But hey, let's take a moment here. I got to give a shout out to one of our sponsors over at Coors Light. Coors Light, it is just the best combination when you can get out to a baseball stadium. We've got only a handful of home games left before the Rockies wrap up the regular season. And when you can get out to Coors Field and enjoy a combination of sunny weather, good baseball, because the Rockies always do play well at Coors Field for the most part, and a nice, cold, refreshing Coors Light beer, there is nothing better. And I was actually talking on a podcast last night. It was someone who wasn't familiar with the Rockies as much, and they were saying, "Hey, why do people go to Coors Field so much when the Rockies aren't playing very well?" And I told them, look, it is such a nice vibe when you can go get a $5 ticket to go watch some, casual baseball out at Coors Field, and you get $3 Coors Lights up at the rooftop and the Coors Light bar, upstairs, and you just get to relax, hang out with friends, enjoy some cold, refreshing Coors Light beer. There is nothing better. So no matter what you're doing, whether you're going out to a baseball game, whether you're choosing to hang out, with some friends downtown, whatever it is, embrace that chill mindset. Choose chill. Crack open an ice cold Coors Light. And also, you can get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instant Cart by going to CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Also got to give a shout out to our friends over at Bet365, because at Bet365, we don't do ordinary. We believe that every single sport should be epic, and right now, new customers can choose between two offers. When they open an account with Bet365, use the code DNVR365 when you sign up, deposit $10, and choose between either a bet and get offer by placing a bet of $5 or more and getting $200 in bonus bets. Used to be $150. Now it's $200 in bonus bets. Or you could choose that first bet safety net offer. You place a bet up to $1,000, and if your qualifying bet loses, you receive a matched refund in bonus bets. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. So get on that Bet365 app, use code DNVR365, and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem or wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, we got an update here on some pitching rotation moves for the Colorado Rockies. Bud Black confirmed that Senzatella will be making his last start, hopefully his last start, if they can get his pitch count up a little bit, in Hartford before he returns to the Rockies. And I know we talk so much about pitching rotation for the Rockies and the injuries that we've seen this year. German Marquez was shut down earlier in the year. But Senzatella is a guy that we're going to see pitching in a Rockies uniform before the end of the year. And that's nice for me. I mean, it's Senzatella. He's a fan favorite. I was one of the few people that was okay with shutting down German Marquez this year, just given that, the injuries that he's been plagued with and not wanting to rush back into anything and then extend his offseason by injuring him even further or anything like that. So, but I think with Senzatella, he's the type of guy that you want to get some more reps out, maybe finish on some confidence before he goes into the offseason. So yeah, that's good news. And again, we're going to see Victor Vodnik in Hartford probably tonight. And so those are two guys that we'll probably see back in the rotation for the Rockies pretty soon. I was asked before I jumped on the pod here by Hank, actually, before this podcast. He was getting off the Broncos pod. And I was asked by Hank, what are the chances we see Chase Dollander in a Rockies uniform before the end of the year? And I gotta say, I don't think it's very high. And I could be wrong, Dollander could end up in, pitching a game or two for the Rockies. And I would love that, given the way he's pitching. But I think the signs are pointing to the Rockies just kind of letting him play out the remainder of his season. Hartford's going to go to, he's going to be going out to play in the postseason in the minors this year. And I just don't see it happening. I would love to see Chase Dollander playing in a Rockies uniform this year, but I think the writing's kind of on the wall right now for us right now. So I think Senzatella's going to be the guy that's going to be coming back up. Vodnik's going to get a start, and if we get to see Dollander, that's going to be great. But he's shoving right now, and I think the Rockies are liking what he's doing in the minors at this time. But hey, I don't know if you guys saw this, but kind of going back to this Braves game, last night was an interesting bobblehead night over at the Braves game. They had, I don't know if you saw this yet here, they had Ludacris bobblehead night last night. And Ludacris threw out the first pitch. He brought out the big arms to throw out the first pitch. Did you see that?
I saw the big arms. I didn't see the bobbleheads, but I didn't know they were playing the Rockies when I saw the first pitch.
Yeah.
But
that was bigger news than the fact that they were playing the Rockies.
I was just, how did he hold on to the ball? It was like sticky tape?
I think it was sticky tape, but then you have to have it to a point where it sticks enough to throw the ball or to hold the ball, but also not enough to keep it on your hand when you throw it.
It was weird.
There's some physics there.
He was arms extended, trying to get a hug basically the whole time because he couldn't put him down.
It looked like a cartoon.
Yeah, he was windmilling the ball too because he had to balance out the other arm.
And it actually wasn't the worst pitch. I mean, he kind of bounced it in there, but he didn't 50 Cent it. That was a better first pitch than 50 Cent.
And 50 Cent's a well-abled man without any big arms next to him.
Maybe the big arms would help 50 Cent, maybe?
Maybe he needs fake big arms because he has the real ones. I don't know, man. Maybe it's the 9 shots he got when he was younger. I don't know what it is, but it was really weird seeing Ludacris windmilling the ball through.
I put out there that, I would stand in line for a Ludacris bobblehead longer than the Shohei Ohtani bobblehead line. Did you see those Shohei Ohtani bobblehead lines, by the way?
I did not. Were they long?
Oh, it was insane. We put a picture of it on the show when we did it. And, I mean, so it was a 7 p.m. game. People were sitting in line from, I think it was 9 a.m. It was 95 degrees in L.A., standing on the street from 9 a.m. till a 7 p.m. start time to get a Shohei Ohtani bobblehead. And I think I saw on Twitter one of them just sold for $17,000.
I would have been in line just to get the $17,000.
That's insane. $17,000 for a bobblehead. I mean, it's Shohei Ohtani, but what are we doing? So I wouldn't have done that for Shohei Ohtani. I might have done that for the Ludacris bobblehead. That could have been an option for me.
I would have definitely done it for Ludacris. I think Ludacris is 20 times cooler than Shohei.
20 times, yeah. So it brings up the question then: if you could choose any celebrity, person, player to have a bobblehead, who would it be? What would be your dream bobblehead that you would want to see at Coors Field?
Oh, that's insane. Does that have to be Colorado-based?
No. It could be anyone. I mean, Ludacris. I mean, he's based in Atlanta, but I mean, he's a rapper. He's not a player for the Braves.
If it was me personally,
who's your dream bobblehead? Yeah, here
I have 2 of them. One of them, it would be Kendrick Lamar, favorite artist of all time.
Okay,
love
fair.
him. Second one, it has to be Rapid Man. A Rapid Man bobblehead hugging Dinger. I'm all in. Give me those bobbleheads. Rapid Man and Dinger together.
That's
what
solid.
I want.
So mine, and this is funny, this is such a random dream bobblehead. I just think it would be a great bobblehead. I think Bob Ross would be a phenomenal bobblehead with the afro. I mean, with his vibe, you could put a little, paintbrush in one hand, his little what is that called?
The stencil?
The little stencil thing in the other hand, and then just have the big afro.
Yeah, the canvas with the stencil on one side. That's actually a good one.
That'd be a good bobblehead. I would wait in line for a Bob Ross bobblehead.
My cap would be, I think, 2 hours to wait for a Bob Ross.
Okay, 2 hours seems fair. It depends on the weather. But, that'd be a good bobblehead. They were talking about it on the broadcast last night because, of course, Drew Goodman and Ryan Spilborn were trying to figure out, their favorite bobbleheads and all of that. And it was interesting. Fun fact about the first bobblehead ever to be debuted by a Major League Baseball team was the San Francisco Giants in 1990 debuted a Willie Mays bobblehead. It was a paper mache bobblehead, and that was in 1990, which actually, to me, doesn't seem like that long ago.
No, it really doesn't. Maybe because I was born in the 90s, and I don't want to admit that that's over 30 years ago.
Maybe it was a long time ago.
Yeah, over 30 years easily, but it doesn't. I would have thought they were doing that in the 70s. The
Yeah,
era of
right.
wackiness.
Like, I feel like bobblehead's a very non-technical piece of equipment that, you can make pretty easily. I don't know, maybe it would have been hard to manufacture those back then, like at mass level, because they had 30,000 paper mache Willie Mays bobbleheads in 1990. That's a lot of paper mache.
Maybe it's even the trying to get the right figure of the person. Maybe we have more technology now where you can actually make it look more similar.
Yeah,
to
maybe. In the chat, I don't know how to pronounce whatever those symbols are, but they said Nikola Jokic. Do we have a Nikola Jokic bobblehead? Is that ever been a thing?
Yes, and we right behind you, we have a custom-made. We have a Serbian bobblehead right there.
Okay, there you go.
And
Yep,
then we
see a couple of them.
We have one that I can't really get in the shot, but we have a custom-made toy
It's that way.
Eric made that's kind of shooting or dunking. That's not even supposed to be Nikola. It was something else originally. And
Eric made that?
He sent it to get
okay,
made.
okay.
Customized it, but it's like incredibly well made.
I was gonna say, I was gonna be
detailed.
impressed. I'm like, Eric's just sitting there carving it by hand. I wouldn't have been surprised.
Neither would I. Eric is super talented, so that's not a crazy
Yeah,
ask.
that's funny. Yeah, well, that was just crazy to me. I would have figured, back in like the Babe Ruth days, that would have been like Babe Ruth would have been a classic bobblehead, in the old Yankees. But I guess the technology wasn't there until recently. So yeah, ludicrous bobblehead. I don't think there are any bobblehead days coming up for the Rockies. I think Todd Helton was the last bobblehead day. We have some, fireworks shows and stuff, but if you didn't get the Todd Helton bobblehead, that might have been your last one. Rockies got to get on that level. I don't know. Are there any like cool rappers from Denver that could be a good bobblehead?
No,
not
even
okay.
close.
I'm not from here, so I'm like, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe there is.
I think the closest one we'd have to like something cool, like famous person, might be like Lindsey Vonn.
Yeah, cool.
Michaela Schiffer, maybe.
Who's that girl who did the terrible national anthem? Ingrid Andress?
Yeah, we're not doing that either.
Yeah.
We don't claim right now.
Yeah, at the moment. We hope she's doing better. Getting through rehab. But
we can't do a bobblehead.
You can't do a bobblehead, yeah. Once she redeems herself out there on the national anthem stage, then she'll be better. But so interesting stuff out there in Atlanta. Hey, wanted to reel it back in here. I don't know if you guys saw this, but the San Francisco Giants just signed their third baseman, Matt Chapman, to a 6-year, $151 million deal. That's a big payday for young Matt Chapman. He's kind of in the similar boat with the Rockies guys. He's a young player for the Giants. The Giants are a pretty aggressive team. They're in a playoff window, but they're also not at the same time because they play in the NL West, which is the hardest division in the world. But it brought up the question to me that was, who's going to be the next big contract for the Rockies? And it's an interesting topic because, the Rockies are I called them last night on that other podcast I was on. I called them an island of misfit toys right now. And that is what they are. You got a bunch of young guys who hopefully you're kind of striking it big with one or two of them. You've got a couple veteran players like Charlie Blackmon that are still playing pretty well. Ryan McMahon, I would consider a veteran, although a young veteran at that, playing very well. But who's the next big contract for the Rockies? And the first name that I think popped up to me is a guy by the name of Brenton Doyle. And the reason I feel that way is because obviously he's on a year-to-year contract. He's getting paid, I think, like $750 million or $750,000. He wishes he was going $750. He's actually beating Shohei Ohtani as the richest player alive. No, $750,000 this year, somewhere around that range, in a one-year deal. But I've said it before on this podcast. I think Brenton Doyle is the future face of the Colorado Rockies. I think he's your next Nolan Arenado. I think he's your next Ryan McMahon. I think the way his game has progressed and the national attention that he's gotten, he's in the conversation of comparing to a guy like Jackson Merrill, who is having one of the best seasons, at a center field spot in years, and probably Rookie of the Year candidate, at least this year. And Brenton Doyle, I think, is in that same conversation in comparison to a guy like Jackson Merrill. I think his bat needed to pick up this year, and it has. His defense is Gold Glove oriented defense. He very well could win a Gold Glove this year, and so I think he's probably the next guy, to me at least, that deserves a big contract for the Rockies. And I think it's going to be someone that, even if, the longevity isn't there yet for the Rockies, you invest in the name and the image. You need someone that's going to be the face of your team. And I think for the Rockies, that's going to be where they go. Is it's like, how valuable, beyond just the stats, how valuable is it to have kind of a next face of a franchise for the team?
The other one I was thinking about was Nolan Jones. After having all that recognition, I can kind of see the Rockies thinking he's going to have a bounce back year next year.
Yeah.
And kind of trying to get him to that star level that they think Doyle might be at, and try to give him similar deals going forward.
Yeah, I think the only issue with Jones is that he just this year, with the injuries and his lack of numbers, that hurt him, but that also might give the Rockies an opportunity to get him for a little bit less. He might not be as expensive, but still, you're right, warrant a decent-sized contract. The Rockies also have a very good outfield, and I think they want to lock that down. Again, we go back to this whole, can we check boxes? If the Rockies can check their outfield boxes as much as we possibly can, get a guy like Brenton Doyle solidified on in your outfield at center field, Nolan Jones, getting him solidified in that outfield. Aaron in the Toyota chat says, it might take a few years. I think Jake Cave could be a regular 3 or 4 in the lineup. I think Cave's too old for that. I don't see him being with the team much longer than another year or so. He was pretty much DFA'd last year by the was it the Yankees? Yeah, it was the Yankees. And so to me, it's just one of those things. I think his time has come with the Rockies where I just don't see him being, a guy that fits into this rebuilding lineup. He might be a good secondary player moving forward, and he's definitely a decent outfielder. But that's the other thing that we're going to talk about here in a moment is, where does this outfield go? Because the Rockies, the one thing they have too many options is the outfield. Their prospects, their outfield was rated the top minor league outfield in MLB. And so you've got 7 outfielders that could all probably be big leaguers today. And I'm like, that's great, but what do we do with all of those guys? And that's the issue right now is the Rockies have too many options from the outfielders standpoint. It's like we gotta figure that out.
It feels almost like the Rockies are predicting their pitchers are not going to develop well. Yeah. Coach Fields are like, let's just throw 20 outfielders.
It's a big outfield.
Let's just throw as many people as we can out there and hope that one of them can get back in time.
We've had Charlie Condon on the podcast. He's a cool guy. He's a great player, but I'm like, where do you put him? You've got Jordan back in left field or Nolan Jones in left field and Brenton Doyle in center, and then, Nolan Jones or Jordan back in right field, and Yanquiel Fernandez is crushing it out there. Zach Veen, another player. What are we doing with all these guys? So I want to talk about that in a moment. You said Tovar is probably the next face. Yes and no. I think he's going to be a face of the Rockies. I just think Brenton Doyle has more notoriety right now at the national level than Ezequiel Tovar. And I think Ezequiel Tovar is just kind of too quiet, to be honest, right now. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't think he's gotten the media hype. Brenton Doyle's on MLB Network once a week right now with the way he's playing. And Ezequiel Tovar just isn't that guy. Look at Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic has to literally be the best basketball player in the world, literally the best basketball player in the world, to get the attention that he deserves because he's not a media guy. He's not someone that goes and puts himself out there. He just shows up and plays, and he just happens to be the best player in the world, and so people have noticed that. I think Tovar, unfortunately for him, isn't the best shortstop in the world. He's very good, but because he doesn't have that, social savvy that a guy like Brenton Doyle has, I think he's not as noticeable for the national media that Brenton Doyle is. So
Tovar feels a little bit like the Matt Holliday to Tulowitzki.
Yeah. 2
very good players. Both should be up there in notoriety. But Tulo always got all the attention because he was younger. He had all this thing going on for him. It kind of feels that same dynamic going on with him.
100%, man. I think that is a part of it. When you want to face your franchise, unless the player is Todd Helton, one of the best first basemen to ever do it, you want a guy who can also handle the national spotlight. And Brenton Doyle seems to be that guy. But hey, before we get any further, I want to recognize one of our favorite sponsors here on this podcast. That is Game Time. Nothing goes better with sports than a great company that values the fans and getting the fans the best deals on tickets. Game Time is the place to go when it comes to that. And Game Time has this new feature called Game Time Picks. It's basically, what it does is it filters out all of that extra stuff, all of the fluff. It gives you all these different filters to help you get the perfect ticket, both with price point, with view, with with just where you want to sit, how you want to enjoy the game or the event that you're going to. Game Time Picks makes it easier to get tickets faster and more efficient. And basically how it works is it gives you all these different features to allow you to get a panoramic view from your seat. It gets you the lowest price guarantee. As you get closer to the game, you get better prices. So you could wait till 5 minutes before first pitch and you'll get probably like $5 tickets. Like, it is that easy. It is the lowest price guarantee. And right now, you got to take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. Again, create an account, redeem code DNVR for $20 off, and get that Game Time app going today. What time is it? It's game time. Speaking of what time it is, feels like lunchtime already. Oh, it is lunchtime already. It's almost noon. I normally do my podcast at 10, so it's getting towards the lunch hour here. And, I don't care if it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner. If you're going to be grabbing some food, especially on the go, you've got to make your way over to Raising Cane's, because they have the best chicken fingers around. And I always say, this is my least favorite. This is my least favorite sponsor because it makes me so hungry every time I read it. Like, I feel like I want to just get up and leave right now and bail on this podcast and just go get some Raising Cane's chicken fingers because they are that good, and it makes me hungry every single time. But take it from me. Take my word for it. Raising Cane's is the best. They've got hand-battered chicken fingers. They're served up quickly, fast. You can order ahead and get those chicken fingers ready to go for you when you get there. There's Raising Cane's all over the place. You can get them all throughout the state. Really, anywhere you drive, you'll find a Raising Cane's chicken fingers, and they've got a lot of different options there. You can get their tender chicken fingers, which is what they're known for. Crispy, crinkle-cut fries, buttery Texas toast. Can't forget the creamy coleslaw, the secret Cane's sauce. You always have to have a secret Cane's sauce. I'm one of those people that likes to try to figure out how to make the secret sauce, and I'm a pretty good chef, but I've never been able to crack that one. They have incredible sauce. So yeah. Head online, or you can order ahead, or go out to one of the Raising Cane's locations. Turbocharge your chicken fingers and get them even faster by ordering online at raisingcanes.com or through their mobile app. Raising Cane's chicken fingers, one love. All right, let's keep it rolling here on the DNVR Rockies podcast. We were talking about the Rockies minor leaguers and how their outfield is just too stacked. So what do you do with that? You've got Charlie Condon, your top-rated prospect, or top-rated draft pick in the outfield. He's being kind of developed as an outfielder. Zach Veen, Yanquiel Fernandez, a couple more guys that are in that mix as well. What do you do with them? Well, it's unfortunate that we have so many great options at outfield and not in the pitching world, but good options is never a bad thing. Having too many choices is never a bad thing. I think Jordan Beck hasn't quite solidified himself yet moving forward for the Rockies in the long term. He is this year, but in the long term, is Jordan Beck the future outfielder, or a future outfielder, starting outfielder for the Rockies? I don't know. I think he very well could be, but I think he's the one guy in that outfield between Nolan Jones and Brenton Doyle that hasn't quite checked that box yet. So you maybe have one spot right now that's open, or could be open next year, depending on how spring training and the offseason goes. But besides that, your outfield's kind of set. So you're fighting for a backup spot at this point. And it's good to have some good backups, because if, Brenton Doyle, God forbid, he went down with an injury or whatever could happen, that would be unfortunate. But I think this is going to be something that the Rockies use more as a trading card piece in the coming years, because the Rockies have given themselves a deadline, a very quick deadline of 2026 to be postseason wildcard contenders. And that's coming up real quick here. And so if they are going to compete there, you don't need 7 good outfielders. You need 12 good pitchers, right? And so I think you can use prospects with big upside, Yanquiel Fernandez, Zach Veen, even a Charlie Condon, if you want to go so far as to move Charlie around. When the Rockies show that they've got some of those pieces fully solidified and say, all right, this is our outfield. Jordan Beck, Nolan Jones, and Brenton Doyle is our outfield. And we're going to bring Yanquiel Fernandez in as our kind of secondary outfielder. And here's all the rest of our guys, I think that's an opportunity for them to make some moves, move some guys around, and use that as value builders. So keep an eye on that, because I think that's something that we're going to talk about in the coming months on this podcast. Is what are we going to do? What are we going to see the Rockies do? Do we use some of these pieces to build some value in other areas that the Rockies are lacking moving forward? But hey, we got a lot to talk about here on this Thursday, almost afternoon, and so let's talk Major League Baseball. I have this crazy stat for you guys right now. The Chicago White Sox in the past 50 games have gone 5-45. Through 50 games, they have won 5 games. And I know we could sit here and pile onto the White Sox all day long. I could do an entire show on how bad the White Sox are. But I think that stat just is such a polarizing stat in the world of baseball, where you could the best team in baseball, the Diamondbacks, the Padres, the Dodgers, could just get 20 runs put up by the Colorado Rockies on any given day. That's baseball, right? Like the Rockies won a game 20-7 against the Boston freaking Red Sox. And to have a 5-45 record over 50 games in Major League Baseball is absurd to me. So I just had to throw that out there, because I feel like it's almost interesting. Like, it's almost entertaining to see that. So wild what's going on out there in Chicago, and the fact that they haven't just boycotted the team entirely. But let's talk about on the other side of that. What are some of the teams that have done surprisingly well since July 1st? So I gave a graphic to our producer, Yahir, and it shows some of the records of the best record since July 1st. And this is in the American League here. The Astros have gone 25-17 since July 1st. But look at the teams 2, 3, and 4 below them, specifically 2 and 3. The Oakland Athletics, who are soon to be the Vegas Athletics, have gone 24-17, almost a .600 winning percentage since July 1st. What's going on in Oakland? Is the Billy Bean Moneyball magic working somehow out there? I mean, they've got like 20 fans in the stands in that cement box that is the Coliseum. But man, the Oakland A's, why can't the Rockies be like that? Like, the Oakland A's probably aren't going to the playoffs, but like, at least it's fun baseball right now.
It feels like they're a little bit more bought in, right? It feels like emotionally they know they're going to Vegas. So to me, it's more like an excitement of a new city, a fresh start for a lot of these players. So let me play harder. Or it's, hey, this is our last time at this stadium. Yeah. Let's give the few fans that are left here a good showing. It feels like It's emotion driven more than anything.
It is. And I mean, because every night, every time you play a team, the Giants, you played your last series against the Giants in the Bay Bridge Classic, like, it's the last time that's ever happening at that stadium. So there is that like energy there, even just from a playing standpoint of like, this is history. I mean, we're seeing guys taking containers of dirt off the field and keeping that, because that's going to be historic. These are they're going to demolish that stadium at some point. And these are going to be the last times these teams are playing there. So yeah, I just thought that was really interesting to look at. The Cubs, last night, the Cubs threw a combined no-hitter as a team. And that's cool and all. Good for our CHGO crew out there for the Cubs. The Cubs are very much in it right now in that wild card race. But can I just go on record and say that I feel like combined no-hitters are kind of overrated? Like, is it just me? Like, a no-hitter is a no-hitter. I'll give you that. It's still a no-hitter. I'll take a no-hitter any day of the week. But it feels anticlimactic when it's like, oh, 4 pitchers didn't give up a hit. Like, cool. I don't know. Like, it just doesn't feel as impressive to me as one guy going 9 innings, throwing 120 pitches, and, getting a personal no-hitter.
It feels kind of fake. It feels like cheating a little bit, right?
Yeah, like it's still cool, but
it's like you got an A, but they were graded on a curve.
Yeah, or as a group project, like you did 50% of the work, 40% of the work, and the other 60% was, your team.
It just feels like good for you accomplishment at the end of the day.
You got 100% on your class project, but there was 4 of you in the project.
And in that little note, you're just going to come up as a footnote that there was a combined no-hitter instead of just you saying, I had a no-hitter.
Yeah, well, I saw on Twitter, and the reason I said this is I saw on Twitter, and it was just a tweet that said the Cubs got the Cubs, congratulations to the Cubs on throwing a no-hitter. And I'm like, oh, man, who threw it? And then I saw it was combined, and I was like, oh, well, that's not as cool. Like, that doesn't feel as impressive to me.
You don't remember the names as much.
Yeah. So,
like, Ubaldo Jimenez will forever be the Rockies guy that threw a no-hitter.
Yeah, not the team no-hitter that the Rockies just, threw. Like, exactly. It's a different vibe. But I do want to go over some of the standings right now because we've got some crazy battles here in September. September baseball is rolling right now. But before we get into that, I gotta give a shout out to our friends over at Empire Today, because with Empire Today, you get some incredible deals at shop at home convenience with the right products for your needs, quick and professional installation, and price match guaranteed. Empire Today is the place to get your new floors. And I know there are so many options out there. So many other companies can do that. But with Empire Today, they really are the top-notch, premium, best in the business for us. And the reason I like going to Empire Today is because they're quick, they're affordable, and they're friendly. Their service, they come and talk to you. They're not trying to sell you a ton of different things. They're not trying to do all this stuff. I hate it when you have people coming over to your house and they're sitting down with you and they're trying to sell you on all these different ways to get your floor done and how to make this look like that and how to do this. Like, look, Empire Today is straight and efficient. They come in, they ask you what you want to have done, and they get it done right, and they do it right the first time. That is why they are our go-to here at DNVR, is Empire Today. They are truly the best in the business, and they've got a lot of different opportunities, a lot of different features that can help you. Their virtual floor designer, it's a great way to see how new floors will look in any space. I like to visualize things, so when I'm wanting to do home renovations, I want to visualize what's my floor going to look like. If I'm tearing up everything, or I have installers coming to tear up everything, I want to know what it's going to look like when everything's said and done. It's easy. You can just take a picture and you instantly see how those new floors are going to look in your room. So shopping for floors has never been easier than it is with Empire Today. So schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive $350 off discount when you use the promo code DNVR. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/DNVR for details. All right. We got to give a shout out to our one of our other great sponsors here on the podcast. That's Z-Biotic. Z-Biotic is just this incredible product. I love it so much because, I'm getting a little older. My recovery time is not as high as it used to be. I used to be able to go out and throw 95 pitches in a game and bounce back and Nolan Ryan it, jump back out there a couple days later and throw another 95 pitches. And, today I just can't do that. And in the drinking world, it's the same thing. You go out, maybe when you were in your early 20s, you got to go out, 23 years old, you go out with friends. You throw a couple back and you bounce back the next day like it was nothing. But now I'm 27 years old, man. It's getting hard. I wake up the next day and I'm like, I gotta go take the dogs out on a walk in the morning. Gotta go mow the lawn. Do all the stuff that you got to do as a grown adult, and it's just hard to bounce back. But with Z-Biotics pre-alcohol, it just makes that recovery time quicker. You can drink a little pre-alcohol, Z-Biotics pre-alcohol before you go out, the night before you go out, and it just helps you to get back on your horse a little quicker. And the way it works basically is when you drink alcohol, all of that toxins kind of get muddled up in your gut. Well, Z-Biotics pre-alcohol releases this enzyme that helps break those bad toxic byproducts down. So remember to make Z-Biotics pre-alcohol your first drink of the night before you get started on anything else. Drink responsibly. You'll feel entirely better the next day. Make the most out of the rest of your summer, whatever's left of it. Feels like it's going quick. It feels like fall out there right now. Stock up on pre-alcohol now. Head over to zbiotics.com/DNVR Rockies to get 15% off your first order. They are backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll give you your money back, no questions asked. Remember that zbiotics.com/DNVR Rockies to get 15% off your first order. Thank you, Z-Biotics, for sponsoring this episode and for sponsoring our good time. All right, before we get into this standings updates right now, I gotta post a question to you guys about this recent debate that's come up around who's going to be the NL MVP. Is it Shohei Ohtani or Francisco Lindor? And here's the debate. Here's why this is even a question. Because when I saw this, I'm like, it's Shohei Ohtani. Like, what are we talking about? Shohei Ohtani, offensively, yes, and just socially, yes, is the standalone MVP. But Francisco Lindor has had some pretty incredible offensive numbers. They aren't Shohei Ohtani numbers. But defensively, Lindor is playing lights out. And you can make the argument that having a guy who plays both offense and defense could be more valuable to your team than Shohei Ohtani and what he's doing, albeit incredible and historic, just offensively as the DH. So from an outsider's perspective, Yahir, I know you probably don't watch a ton of Mets and Dodgers ball, and to be honest, I don't either. But I mean, from a most valuable player position, do you feel like a historic offensive season with Shohei Ohtani, although being a guy that doesn't play any defense, is more impressive to you and more valuable to you than a guy like Francisco Lindor, who's having a phenomenal offensive season, not historic, but phenomenal, but also playing a phenomenal defensive season as well and can kind of play both ways? Do you feel like that balances out on Lindor's side, or do you still think the notoriety of Shohei Ohtani carries him through?
I think Shohei is going to win it, especially because his team has a better record, probably
Fair.
the best team in baseball, and I think voters really take that into account quite a bit. But there is a chance for me that Lindor doesn't gets it, and it's for the reason that Shohei is having a historic season. But how many more of those is he gonna have?
Yeah.
It's the LeBron James argument, right? It's he could win it every damn year, literally, but he won't because they need to spread out the love, and it's gonna be a boring race all the way around throughout the career. So I think Shohei deserves it because it is historic. He is clearly the best player in baseball, and not him contributing defensively, it's a health thing, not really a.
Yeah,
It's not because he doesn't want to. It's just not. He can't. Literally can't.
Totally.
But Francisco is going to win it, and I think Francisco has a good chance just because of the LeBron James argument that you could give it to Shohei every year, but you're not going to.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point.
Yeah, and once you have a worthy competitor, they're just going to give it to the worthy competitor because you can't have Shohei winning every MVP.
Yeah, well, I mean, Nikola Jokic is in the same boat, man. Like, it's like the whole Jokic Embiid thing. It's like, do we want to see? I mean, we want to see Jokic win 7 MVPs in a row, and his numbers probably would allow him to do that. But are the NBA voters going to want to see 7 Jokic MVPs in a row? Even if Embiid is a crybaby and a whiner, he's still a good player and he can still play good basketball. And so, I think I agree with you. That's a fair point.
And the other thing is also Lindor's just out east. A lot of these voters are out east. They see Lindor a lot closer than they see Shohei because you have the Dodgers playing at 8 p.m., 10 p.m. Eastern time. It's just whose eyes are on which player at all times. And if you have already a bias to the Mets or the East Coast, it's just going to be easier to vote for Lindor. Yeah.
Our little yin and yang person down here says Aaron Judge is the best player, though. Have you seen Judge's stats since the Paw Patrol video came out? He's not doing too great. He's hitting sub 200. He has no home runs. He's a good player. Don't get me wrong. He's a good player. But, I don't know. Shohei Ohtani's got Aaron Judge beat in my eyes. And I think Francisco Lindor, too. I should say, Aaron Judge was on track to hit 1 million home runs. 63 home runs is what he was on pace to hit. He's no longer on pace to hit 63 home runs. Still a very good player, but I think Aaron Judge might have the hype train might have fallen off the course a little bit on that one. But let's talk standings, because there's a lot to get into, and we've only got a couple minutes left in the show for MLB standings. NL West right now, Dodgers up 4.5 games over the Padres. Did we see that the Padres got Fernando Tatis Jr. back in the lineup, and on his first day from his returning from his suspension/injury, he gets a walk-off. We hate him. So screw the Padres. But I think the Padres could give the Dodgers a run for their money. The Dodgers are petering off right now. Their win percentage is going down pretty quick. Although Yamamoto, who's been out with an injury, is returning on Tuesday for the Dodgers per Dave Roberts. So the Dodgers are getting better. The Padres are getting better. And the D-backs are still just kicking everyone's ass. Like, they're playing great. Also, two out of those three teams have a chance to sweep tonight in their respective series. The other team in that wild card race in the NL right now, the Braves, have a chance to sweep the Rockies tonight. So you got three teams that are in that wild card conversation that have an opportunity to sweep their respective series across the board. So this NL West / National League wildcard race is insane. That's why I wanted to talk about it. NL East, Phillies up 7 games over the Braves and the Mets. Phillies will walk away with the NL East. The NL Central, Brewers up 9 games over the Cubs. That's all fine, because the NL wildcard, Padres, D-backs, and Braves are right now in it. The Mets are only a half game out, and the Mets are on a 7-game winning streak right now. Dude, it is chaos in the National League right now. It's the best time of year to be watching baseball. Cubs are a few games back in that as well, but I wouldn't count the Cubs out just yet. American League, the Yankees, Twins, and the Royals, they're all kind of right up at the top of that AL West lineup right now. The AL East, Orioles are a half game up over the Yankees. That's going to be an interesting one. The Orioles, they've got some injuries that are plaguing them right now. The Yankees are playing great baseball. That's going to be one that I think that's probably going to be the most exciting. That's probably going to be the most exciting series to watch. AL Central, Guardians up 4.5 over the Twins, and then the wild card the AL West, Astros up 5.5 games over the Mariners. What a disaster of a season the Mariners have had this year. We've got a question. Who's y'all's World Series prediction in the Toyota chat? A little early for a World Series prediction, and I don't think you can go wrong with some of the teams I just listed, man. There are some great teams in that list. I cannot put the Dodgers in a World Series. It's against my religion to put the Dodgers in a World Series, although I think there's a chance they go. For the sake of the company, and also backed by the fact that they're playing incredible baseball, let's go with our boys over at PHNX. D-backs, I think the D-backs in the National League could go to the World Series for the National League side of things. They're playing incredible baseball. And then on the American League side, Yankees could be fun. Yankees could be fun to see in the World Series as well. I agree with you. Yankees would be in the World Series. And I think for Major League Baseball as a whole, we haven't seen the Yankees in the World Series in a long time. I think it could be the Yankees and the D-backs. That'd be a fun series. But look, we're getting swarmed over here in the studios. Marissa has returned from DLLS from Dallas. Marissa and Emma in the house. Emma, happy birthday, by the way. Our super producer, Emma, in the building. Marissa returning from her long stint overseas at the hottest place on earth, Dallas, and back in the studio. So I think that means it's time for us to wrap up. So we're gonna finish things off here. Shout out to our amazing producer Yahir for jumping on with us. Yahir, you don't get to do a lot of Rockies pods, so we love it whenever you get to hang out with us.
I like the Rockies, contrary to popular belief.
You like the Rockies, big Rockies guy.
I actually am. I love the Rockies. Actually,
you're like I'm being dead serious.
I am actually serious. I love the Rockies.
Well, we love the Rockies too. It's a love-hate relationship. Sometimes right now we're in our sad phase of the season, because there's no meaningful baseball for wins and losses of the Rockies. But we're hanging in there. But yeah, thanks for producing for us. Shout out to our entire team here at DNVR. I'm Christian Saez. You can follow me on Twitter at CJJ Saez. You can follow the Rockies on Twitter at DNVR Rockies. We're going to be hanging with you guys the rest of this series, and we're going to come back tomorrow to talk more baseball at 11 o'clock as well. This has been the DNVR Rockies podcast, brought to you by Bet365. We'll see you tomorrow at 11.
We all silly like the mayor.